It's finally Friday. It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
All right, welcome back to the Friday Show, presented by the Match Series. I'm Scott Jagow in the studio, along with Ray Pollock, who is at Del Mar, obviously based on that shirt he is wearing. Are you still having fun out there?
I'm having fun out here. It's closing week. There's some really big races coming up here this weekend for the 2-year-olds, the debutante, and then Monday's closing day, Del Mar Futurity. It's really fun because in Saratoga, you've got the Spinaway and the Hopeful on closing weekend. So it's time to get really serious about looking at the 2-year-olds.
I can't believe it's that time already.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the Triple Crown and its influence on the Eclipse Awards coming up. But first, I'd like to start with the business of last weekend, Travers Day. It was one of the biggest, I think it was the biggest betting handle of all time on Travers Day, $52 million plus. And we've had recently with the Belmont Stakes, I think it was the second biggest day New York racing ever in terms of betting handle. Can you talk a little bit about what you think's behind this?
Well, I think number one, the change in the U.S. Treasury IRS regulations on withholding for winning bets has made a difference across the board on big days and on non-big days. So that's been really helpful. But because Pacific Classic Day was also an all-time record here at Del Mar. So the big days are getting bigger. But I really have to give credit in the case of Travers Day to the New York Racing Association management. Chris Kay, Martin Panza both started in 2013, and they have focused on making the big days bigger. And we've seen it with the Belmont Stakes, and we've seen it with the Travers Day by taking these days that used to have multiple grade ones and really piling on and making it almost a Breeders' Cup type card. And Travers Day was a phenomenal day of racing, and they set out to make these big days better, and they did.
And I think what you said was correct in that it's the Breeders' Cup model. That's what it is. It's the idea of having these high quality races with super horses who are predictable, a lot more predictable than lower class horses, which is why people love to bet the Breeders' Cup. You get bigger fields, and you have horses that should be lower priced that are nice long shots because you've got a 12-horse field of really good horses. Yep. And that's why these big days are appealing to bettors. The per capita on Travers Day was $200. That's really good. So people are betting through the windows, even the casual bettors. And again, I think for the casual fan that comes to the racetrack, these big days are also appealing because it's very simple. You can plan ahead. It's on the calendar. When you spread everything out and it's every weekend is about the same thing, then how do you pick out when to go? I think in greater society, people love big events. When it comes to entertainment and other venues, so it's appealing to people in a broader sense.
Yeah, the one thing I'd point out too is that in the Travers and with the Pacific Classic, you had Accelerate, who was a very heavy favorite in that race, but you can't categorize him as a superstar. You can't really categorize any of the horses in the Travers as superstars because the superstar is retired in Justify. So we used to always say racing needs superstars to be successful, and I think these two big days proved that you really just need good competitive races to appeal to the horse player. And then by creating a big event, you're also appealing to people who like to go, because of the fashion elements and the whole social thing that's become so important to, I hate to say this, to younger people, that they want to go to events. And what's created on Pacific Classic Day here and what is especially created at Travers Day is an event that people like to go to. So it's not just for the horse players, it's for people that just want to take in the biggest event of the summer, like you said.
Yeah, I think it's good news for the industry that this is happening, that it's showing to be successful. It's probably the way forward in general for racing to have the boutique meets with the big days, just kind of have to face the fact that the days of 365 a year racing and all too many tracks with a declining foal population, the arithmetic catches up at some point, and I think this is a model, and you just have to say, quality over quantity is probably the way to go.
Yeah, one thing about that, I've been wondering this for a few years now, but I have to question how much longer, given the full crop declines and the challenges of putting on so many race days, how much longer can NYRA go 6 days a week?
Yeah.
Del Mar used to do that. They cut back to 5. They've been battered by the weather this summer. 6 days a week is a grind for everyone.
Well, let's talk about the result of the Travers, which was Catholic Boy beating a game Mendelssohn in the race. Great payouts. But Catholic Boy winning that race sets up an intriguing scenario for later in the year. Let's say that he continues to win, goes on, beats Older in the Breeders' Cup Classic, will have on his resume at least one grade 1 on turf, grade 1 on dirt, beating Older. To me, that's a serious case for Horse of the Year. What do you think?
You're kidding me, right?
No.
Come on, Justify
No, I'm
won
dead serious.
Justify, undefeated, won the Triple Crown. He won the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby. Then he swept through the Triple Crown for 4 Grade 1s. He did something that no horse since Apollo, since I was a young man back in the 1800s, did, and that was not race as a 2-year-old and still win the Kentucky Derby. Come on, it's over. It's the whole chorus of fat ladies is singing.
You're probably right. However, let's take into consideration the fact that this is about this year, calendar year 2018. So what Justify did last year doesn't matter. It doesn't count. So that does not count into the equation of this year and what he's accomplished. I'm not taking anything away from what he's accomplished. I'm just saying it's kind of dumb to stop the voting in mid-June when it's Horse of the Year. And 6 months more of racing happens after that. So it's kind of like, a golfer wins the Masters and the U.S. Open, but he doesn't win a tournament the rest of the year, and somebody else sweeps all the tournaments. They're not Golfer of the Year? I think they would be.
Well, you might have a point there. I mean, I thought the calendar ended the first or second Saturday in June. There's more racing after that.
Yeah, hey, I hate to break it to you, but yeah.
Well, for a lot of people, they think that horse racing ends with the Belmont Stakes, but Eclipse Award voters, I guess, seriously shouldn't think that. They have to look at the whole year. The only thing I'll say is that racing years aren't what they used to be. Unfortunately, we see the early retirements. We see the spacing out of races. That campaigns that used to be 8, 10, 12 races or more are now 4, 5, and 6 races, and that's kind of sad. And it makes it more difficult when it does come to voting for these year-end championships.
Yeah, I guess the bottom line is there too much emphasis placed on the Triple Crown when it comes to Eclipse Award voting? I would say yes. What would you say?
Well, the Graded Stakes Committee grades the best races in America, and they have Grade 1, Grade 2, and Grade 3, and the Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and Belmont are all Grade 1s. So is the Travers Stakes. So why should the Travers Stakes be anything lesser than those 3 races?
And if he wins the Breeders' Cup Classic, he will have beaten older horses, which Justify won't have a chance to do.
Right.
So he can't put that on his resume. I don't know. I think it's an interesting scenario. I still think voters will probably end up giving it to Justify, but I think there is a case to be made in a certain scenario where it should be a pretty close vote. What do you think? We have a poll on our website on this subject. Let us know your thoughts at pollockreport.com. Ray, there's a break in the match series, but there's kind of a grand finale coming up in the middle of September with this event.
Yeah, it's a grand finale with some big races. The DeFrancis Dash at Laurel is one of a couple races that's run there in Maryland, and there's a big race, the Presque Isle Mile, which, if you can say that fast,
Yeah.
5 times in a row, I'll give you credit for it. So yeah, it's the grand finale is coming up. It's like the 4th of July. I love the grand finale of the fireworks shows.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show presented by the Match Series. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.